Assalamualaikum dear students, hope you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Welcome to NAVS Home School. I am Sabreena, Haque, Assistant Teacher of Science, National Adult English Version School District. Dear students, today I am going to take a chemistry class for class 10 student on the based on assignment 1, and which assignment comes from chapter 5, which is the name of the chapter is chemical bonds. So let us move forward to today's topic. Dear students, the first assignment of 2022 comes from chapter 5, chemical bond, and this is too much important chapter. Then this is the assignment title, the formation of chemical bond, different characteristics of compound and electrical conductivity of metal. Dear students, come to the assignment question. Then answer will contain the following, that means A and D are the two elements which are situated in group 1, and in the periodic table A is placed at period 1 and D is placed at period 4 respectively in periodic table, and two other elements B and C are placed at period 2 and their grouped are 14 and 16 respectively. Explain. The first question is explain the formation of bond between A and B. A which is group 1 situated in period 1, also group 1 and period 1, that means hydrogen, and B is here two other element. B is placed at period 2 and their group is 14, that means carbon, and A is hydrogen and B is carbon, and the electrical conductivity of produced compound. Then come to the question of B. Explain the formation of bond between C and D and the melting and boiling point of the produced compound. That means we have to discuss which compound will produce by C and D from the above stem. In the above stem, C is here, D is the C is the oxygen and C will be in oxygen and D will be potassium. So we have to discuss about their bond and their electrical conductivity. And come to last one, explain the bond that can be formed between multiple atoms of D, that means of potassium, and we know potassium is a metal, and we have to discuss about the metallic bond and its electrical conductivity. It is electrical conductor or not, that we have to discuss in the answer of C, and total answer you will get in your book. Now come to answer, that means process of bonding between element A and B of the catalyst and the electrical conductivity of the result, that will be of the stem, and of the resulting compound the explained below. Then the position of the element in the first period and the group 1 is periodic of the periodic table. So element A is hydrogen and the position of B element is second period and the group 14. So the element B will be carbon, and covalent bonds exist between the hydrogen and carbon. They bind to each other in the covalent bond to produce CH4, that means methane. Dear students, here I show the name of methane, but you can show the another name like ethane, ethene, propane, butane, benzene. These names you can use to make your assignment unique, and that all are the compound of carbon and hydrogen, and all have the covalent bond. The description is more or less similar, but their formation or their bonding and their figure will be different, so that will make your assignment unique. Covalent bonding is a type of chemical bond where the atoms are bound to each other by electron sharing. The stable equilibrium force created by the attraction of and repulsion between the electron sharing atoms, created covalent bonds. Dear students, that picture I have taken from your book, that is the methane's picture that there is given in the octet rules, that figure, and you can easily find out the atomic figure of ethane, propane, butane, benzene, sorry, that will be benzene. The spelling is incorrect, sorry for that. The figure shows that carbon and hydrogen form bond in their final orbit through or last orbit, through electron shear. So they are covalent compounds. So we know that electrons are usually formed by the shear of non-metallic atoms, since covalent compounds are formed by electron sharing. No positive negative charge is formed in the molecules of covalent compound. That's why covalent compounds are usually apolar. That means they don't have any pole. Then because covalent compounds are apolar, they cannot conduct electricity. Most compounds in carbon form covalent compounds by sharing electrons. And so in the case of carbon compound, it is seen that they do not conduct electricity. The molecules of methane is made up of non-metallic atoms of carbon and hydrogen. By electron sharing, the methane molecule does not conduct electricity, as positive and negative charges are not formed in the molecule. Dear students, I show here by the help of methane, but you will choose your own compound. There is a lots of compound which is made of only hydrogen and carbon. Now come for the next one. The next question was, explain the formation of bond between C and D and the melting and the boiling point of compound produce compound. The formation of bond between the elements C and D and the melting point and the boiling point of the produced compound are explained below. The bond formation and the electrical conductivity between elements C and D. The stimulus is located in the second period of the periodic table of the element C and in group 16. So the element C will be oxygen, and the position of element D will be fourth period of the table, that is group 1. Then the element D will be potassium. So following shows the bond formation of potassium and oxygen. That means potassium is a metal and oxygen is a non-metal. So we know when a metal and non-metal forms the bond, that time they the metal donate electron and the non-metal accept the electron, and like that way they form the ionic bond, and that's why they are more stable and their boiling point and the melting point is too high. Here I shows by the K2O, but you can there is more. This is potassium peroxide and another one is KO2, potassium superoxide. That means there is 3 compounds of potassium and oxygen. You will choose your one by yourself to make your assignment unique. That ionic bond exists between oxygen and potassium. They will produce K2O, and that means potassium oxide. Then by binding two ionic bonds by exchanging electrons with each other, and this bond is also an initial force acting of ionic compound, and in a word, the attraction force by which cation and anion formed by exchanging electrons are held within the atom of a compound is called ionic bond. Dear students, the total writing portion you will get in your textbook, and you have to follow your textbook. It will be better for you. After that, you have to give the electron sharing picture like this way. Which one you will give, that picture you have to give. That means that picture is for potassium oxide, and if you write about the potassium peroxide, that picture will be some different, and the potassium superoxide picture also some different. So follow your one for drawing the picture. Now come to the melting point and the boiling point of potassium oxide. Here the compound consisting of ionic bond is called ionic compound, and the compound consisting of covalent bond is called covalent compound. The melting and boiling point of ionic compound is higher than those of covalent compound. Ionic compound contains positive and negative charge which remains tightly connected with each other. Many such positive and negative charge are ionized in an ionic compound is in a three-dimensional way to create a crystal. This result in a higher interatomic force among them, and it makes it tough to alienate them from each other. Therefore, they require higher amount of heat energy to melt or to boil. Interatomic force in a covalent compound is comparatively weaker as it is constituted because of van der Waals force, and therefore they can be boiled or melt with a lower amount of heat energy. Dear students, after that which one you will choose, you have to write that elements melting and boiling point, and you will get the melting and boiling point easily by searching. That means if you will write potassium oxide, that time you have to give the melting and boiling point of potassium oxide. If you give potassium peroxide, that time you have to give the melting and boiling point of potassium peroxide. If you give the as the potassium superoxide, that time you have to give here the melting and boiling point of potassium superoxide. Now come for the answer of C. Question was, explain the bond that can be formed between multiple atoms of D elements. Analyze whether the element is electronic conductor or not. Total portion I have taken from your textbook, and you will write by yourself by using your own words to make it unique. The explanation and analysis of the bond that can be formed between multiple atoms of D elements, whether the elements of electric conductor or not, are given below. And in fact, the element D is a metal or has a metallic bond. It will be has metallic bond between potassium and its multiple atoms. Then regions of electrical conductivity are shown below. Now come to the outermost energy level of each metallic atom usually contains 1, 2 and 3 electrons in its electronic configuration. Here you will supposed to confirm the last orbit electrons of potassium. That means I take it from your textbook, but you will specified this portion for potassium. Now, since the size of them is bigger than the non-metallic element of the same period, the attraction force of the nucleus on them is less strong. As a result, atoms donate 1 or more electrons from their outermost energy level and turns into positive ions. These positive ions is called the atomic core, and these atomic cores are three-dimensionally organized in a metal lattice, and in the metal lattice the donated electrons come out the orbit and move freely at the center of the atomic core. Such electrons are called delocalized electrons, and they become electrons or sea of electrons of all the metallic ions that piece of metal instead of remain under a particular atom. Then it can be said that the atoms remain organized like a lattice in the sea of electrons. When a delocalized electron is situated at amidst two metallic ions, both ions are attracted towards the electrons with the electrostatic force. This causes two ions to remain connected, which is the basic feature of metallic bond. These delocalized electrons are responsible for conductivity, heat and electricity. Similarly, they are regions of metals flexibility, brightness and charge resistance, etc. features of metal, and this is the figure of metallic bonds that is taken from your textbook. Now come to electrical. This will be conductivity of metals. That means potassium. All metals are electrical conductor. The delocalized electrons in the metal lattice are carried the electricity in them. If we connect the two ends of the piece of metal, positive and negative edges of a battery, the electrons will brush from the negative edge to the positive edge. Because electrons are negative charge, that's why they run towards the positive end. That means there will be flow of electricity from positive end to negative end, and there would not have been any electricity flow in the absence of delocalized electrons. And this is the picture which is taken from your textbook, that is the electricity conductivity of metal by the flow of electrons. Dear students, your assignment submission date is 5th March of 2022. Dear students, choose your own compound for make this assignment, to make your assignment unique, and use of internets to find out the melting and boiling points and the atomic structure of the carbon and hydrogen compounds. So thank you. Allah Hafiz.